Thank you very much for tuning in. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the Randall and the Park Hudson. We'll start second here with the Park Hudson. You're flipping through Model Railroader in October of 1946, and you catch this ad here for a 3/8 scale, 2 1/8 gauge, which is standard gauge, Hudson, made by Park Railways up in St. Louis Park, Minnesota, 40 inches long. Standard gauge essentially died 13 years earlier, but nonetheless, these folks decided that there would be a market for a Hudson in standard gauge. They would sell you a pile of parts, and it was up to you to figure out how to kind of put it together. What they were copying was a Randall Hudson. So here we have a Randall Hudson here, which goes back to George Randall in Chicago. Alleged 1933. He had a display at the World's Fair here in Chicago, and also a large string of passenger cars, all in cast aluminum. Close to scale. Unfortunately, 1933, which was kind of the birth of scale model railways, was an O gauge, and standard gauge was just deemed to be too large and impractical once you got up to scale level. Here we're running 8-foot circles, which is absolute minimum for O scale, but as you can see, these trains just look ridiculously over length for an 8-foot circle. You really need 10 to 12-foot circles to do any justice for these. George Randall also sold you a pile of castings. So you got a boiler casting, some raw castings for drivers, side rods, and not really a whole lot of instructions on what to do with it. So there's very few of these casting sets were sold, and it was up to the individual builders to actually turn them into locomotives. This front engine here was built by Dunsey out in Rhode Island back in the 70s, using the old castings from the 30s. He hired a machinist to build it for him. Did a lovely job, very impressive, but he took the castings and improved, added detail, and really upped the game quite a bit. The second engine here is a masterpiece done by Bob Hendricks out in California. Again, he started with an old set of castings from the 30s and then did a masterful job of building a beautiful locomotive. He didn't like a lot of the ancillary bits from Randall, so he made his own side rods, steam chest, put a huge motor in the back here. This engine will easily pull 7 Randall passenger cars, which weigh a ton, and it has an operating valve gear here for the reverser. And the cars are all cast aluminum, 27 inches in length. They do weigh quite a bit of when you pull them all, but when you have a big enough motor and you put ball bearings in the wheels, the Hudson here easily will pull 7 cars. I'm just double heading it to, well, why not? So again, Park decided there would be a market here. Unfortunately, that really did not come to fruition. He didn't get the memo that HO was all the rage after the war, and standard gauge had gone the way of the dodo bird years prior. But nonetheless, this Park here is a little more faithful to the original casting. Not a whole lot of embellishments were added to it, but again, you had to be on your own regarding what kind of motive power you can put underneath. So this has a McCoy double motor 6-wheel drive that was added underneath. Jeff Eng got a hold of some of the old castings from 46, and this is an old casting with a new motor in it. He then recast them, and about 17 casting sets he made. The fact that this is recast from the Randall, you have shrinkage when you recast from another piece. This is about a 1/4 inch shorter, or shorter in length than the Randall Hudson. So thank you very much for tuning in. They also, in the Park line, Jeff made this caboose. They advertised a caboose chassis, but he put the caboose together. You can see ads here for the Park Railway lines. You can read more about the Park and Randalls in Not Your Daddy's Standard Gauge, the wonderful book by Arno Bears and edited by Dave Karse. So we'll run it one more time here. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you like what you see, please subscribe. Thank you.